Well, it's great to be back with you this year. My name is Barry Adams. I'm the VP of Commercial Development for Bidswitch. For those of you viewers not already working with us or familiar with us, Bidswitch is effectively an intelligent grid which connects supply-side platforms with demand-side platforms via RTB pipes. So we're a bit unique in that we ourselves aren't an exchange or an SSP, so we do not host an auction, nor are we a demand-side platform, so we don't operate a bidder. We're really this neutral layer that sits in between them. And a couple of things that we do is we provide access for both sides of the programmatic equation, but we also filter out a lot of the fraud that comes through from the supply side. So we have fraud tools that are removing that fraud. And we also help the buy side by optimizing the bid stream so that they basically receive the types of inventory or the impressions that they're most likely to want and that they're most likely to win on. So we're helping with access, but also with optimization there. Looking back on the last 12 months, we've seen a few very interesting trends with regard to the trading on our platform. Now, we don't see absolutely all the trading, but we're looking at 400 billion bid requests a day with 350 connected partners. So we have a pretty broad view across the ecosystem. So I think our take on it is pretty representative. So some of the things that might be of interest to the viewers are, we've really seen a huge rise in video. That's not new, but now we've seen video basically overtaking display. It's at least on par. Now that varies a little bit by market, but it's a very interesting trend. Even maybe more interesting is that now from device type point of view, mobile is overtaking desktop, and that's just very recent. Now we consider this to be something that's going to continue. So desktop on the decline, you could say, or at least flattening. With regard to some of the new inventory types, there's been some very interesting movements. Native, which had a very slow start, I think, in the industry. There were challenges around adopting native, both with publishers and with buyers. That seems to be sort of clearing up now, and we've seen just astronomical rise. Now that, albeit coming from a very low base, but we've seen year on year, roughly 800% increase in trading, and we see that actually increasing in recent quarters. So that's very exciting, obviously. TV, we've seen just started to pick up with us in June through our partnership with Dish Networks. So that's also something we're looking forward to see big growth in. We've also now just started to come out with VR. So we'll have some virtual reality inventory available in Q4. And also we've been testing audio with a couple of large players, and we're very excited to have that go live soon as well. Obviously, transparency and fraud and ad quality and all these issues have been really front and center this year. I think they're central themes, and we've seen a lot of this here at ATS. There are a few things that we are specifically looking at as Bidswitch. One of them around reselling is obviously we're very supportive of the ads.txt initiative that's led by the IAB. So we're in that working group. We see that implementation of this with publishers, it's still somewhat small. So we see now across the top 500 publishers, about 20% of those are now sort of carrying the file and passing the file through. But that is, even though it's only 20%, it's a huge increase over just weeks ago. So it looks like this may actually start to get some serious teeth. So we're very supportive of the initiative. Obviously there are certain challenges associated with trying to implement something like this. So some of the longer tail publishers we've seen have experienced difficulties in implementing it properly, but we think that with at least the top players in the publisher side, the implementation seemed to be going fairly well. We want to support this initiative, and moreover, we want to help, on the buy side, we want to help them identify ads text compliant inventory, but also potentially help them to either report on it or maybe even block it or provide other controls moving forward. So we take ad fraud as a slightly separate issue from reselling. So around the fraud side, we've always been very scrupulous about looking at fraud. So we employ machine learning to identify any kind of fraudulent inventory. We have a team called the Impression Anomaly team who's just laser focused on this all day. What we're doing additional to that is we're bringing in a new capability for in-app fraud detection. We estimate about 10% of in-app traffic is fraud, so our aim is to implement this new tool and be able to remove that from the bid stream very soon. We're also working very closely with a couple of our large partners to potentially tighten up fraud controls. So we have our own internal fraud map. We're looking to exchange important information with some partners to share some knowledge and some IP to help us tighten that up even more, and then to release that as a tool that our buyers can have greater control over. So it's basically all about trying to reduce fraud even further. The rise of Deal ID has really been very interesting to see. It's also caused us to have a slight shift in our focus and how the business is operated. We've traditionally been more of an open exchange or open RTB pipe, and now what we're seeing is a huge amount of trading is now having a Deal ID attached. So the majority of traffic at this point is now associated to some form of a deal. Now that could be a private or PMP deal, that could be open or public deals, that could be sort of different types of guaranteed deals, but at any rate, it's become ubiquitous. So that's opened up some interesting opportunities, and some of those are around providing tools and capabilities for buyers mostly, but also other parties, so that they can discover deals. So deals discovery capabilities are really important. There's a lot of different types of standards and different ways of packaging up deals that can be very, very confusing to buyers. You've got agencies involved alongside DSPs, which complicates things further, not to mention publishers and SSPs. So it's a complicated sort of piece, and we've been working a lot on trying to help folks map out the deal landscape. And then in addition to providing tools for discovery, we want them to be able to do reporting and troubleshooting and all the rest to really facilitate a much more seamless way of trading through deals. The other thing that's very interesting about deals is it's become kind of an avenue through which to deliver other types of services. So what we're doing now is we've partnered with some very large data companies, and we're able to now work with them to match against bid requests their data or their audience data, or it could be other types of utilities, and then deliver that transparently to the buy side via a deal ID, so that parties on both sides understand exactly what's in the deal. They know if it's audience data, what that audience data looks like, and it's all very transparent and can be passed through via deal ID. So that's another very interesting use case. So infrastructure costs always been a big focus for us. I mean, Michael Barrett upstairs was earlier talking about basically, infrastructure costs rising with margins falling. That's a problem not just for SSPs, it's a problem for everybody. And if you look at some of the drivers behind that, you've got header bidding that's come into the ecosystem. That has created, not on its own, but largely responsible for a massive inflation in the volume of the traffic out there. So there's a lot more than necessarily buyers need, and they're seeing a lot of the same impression many, many times over. So this isn't just a problem for buyers, though. SSPs themselves have an additional cost in distributing out all these bid requests. So we're addressing it in a few ways. From the point of view of an SSP, the way our model works is an SSP sends us a single bid request, and we then distribute that bid request to as many buyers as they want. So you could give me a single bid request, and I can distribute that to 100 DSPs. So that reduces your costs, infrastructure costs, to a tiny fraction. We're also, on the buy side, we're actually working with SSPs to help buyers in some of the following ways. So if you look at the recent announcements that some of the large SSPs have had, they're starting to move towards declared first and second price auctions. It looks like that signals a trend towards moving some of the big exchanges towards first price auction. Let's keep ADX aside. So if that's the case, one of the first steps that we want to facilitate is getting a flag or a signal from the SSPs about what is first price and what is second price, so that buyers can identify it then and try and value it more appropriately. The reality today is that most DSPs aren't actually have their bidders optimized for first price auctions. So that's another piece of evolution that will be coming forward. So we're working with both the buyers and sellers here to try and basically facilitate the most seamless kind of trading through sort of understanding these auction dynamics better and helping everybody trade efficiently.